It's raining very heavily today here in China. Revo on pole from Babinus Jr. and Sebastian Ocampo. Then it's Daf Sanchez starting 4th from Marcus Nelson and Ray Shen. Catfish starts 7th from the reigning World Drivers' Champion, Hugh Cable. Then it's Oscar Folstad, Scotland Rothak, Ike of Wells, and Pierre Gasly. Tonali Gabo starts 13th from Remy LeBeau in his sophomore season and Daniel Bogdasarov. Then it's the Red Devil, Zach Wallace, Cosmos Medrisis, Loris Leclerc, Pablo Sierra, Xavier Kubica, and Vers Theo. Still have problems pronouncing Medrisis' name. After all this time, we've got new faces and returning old faces on the grid in Season 22, which gets underway now. Pretty good start from Babinus Jr. there, but Revo's not actually got that much traction off the line. He's going to have to struggle to defend from the Romanian who's currently alongside him as they now come through turn number 1. Babinus Jr. takes the lead from possibly even Daf Sanchez, and then comes Revo. Those two side by side. They fought at this track before back in Season 16, but it is Babinus Jr. from Revo and Sanchez on board with the Philippi number 72. Does Ray Shen look for a move down the inside? Tries to get past Ocampo and does manage to do that. You cables up into 6th now, but still being fought off by Marcus Nelson. Has to be forced to the outside. The two Mercedes drivers still at the back of the pack, but out in front it is Babinus Jr. who leads from Revo and Daf Sanchez. We have turned off penalties due to there being problems with our sensors. That's not just on the track for the track limits, but also in the cars. So we're going to test how it is without the sensors, because what's happened is as virtual safety cars come out, that's Xavier Kubica. The Polish driver. First Polish ERL driver ever, and on his first appearance, he is out. Leaves his teammate to try and do the rest of the work. Virtual safety car is out there. Babinus Jr. is leading. But just to explain the faults with the penalty system, as you can see, regularly track limits are not monitored there. Track limits have now started to be monitored across the entire track as we now get back underway, which you might think is a good thing. However, instead of it being all 4 wheels off the track, it is now just 1 wheel off the track, and you get a track limits warning, which is not good. And since the penalty system that we have is linked between the track limits and contact, that means that we cannot penalise one without penalising the other. So to turn one off would turn the other off. Fastest first sector goes to Babinus Jr. 21.250, which was 4 whole seconds quicker than what he did on the opening lap, on board with Ocampo, who's currently alongside Ray Shen at his home race. And this was a big deal last season because championship winner of last season in UK Ball, who's currently down in 8th, he won every Crown Jewel event. Here comes Revo. He didn't win any of the Crown Jewels and they're both in the wall! My goodness! Revo drops down the order! He's got front wing damage to the highest heavens! Babinus Jr. was able to get through that quite well. But Revo now having to get himself out of the wall, and he's out of the race! In the opening race of Season 22, the most successful ERL driver in recent history is out. And the floodgates seriously have opened. There is little grip out there for the drivers. You can see they are forced to take to the grass. And that's just the worst outcome for the Italian. 1 minute 34.250 being the fastest lap set by Babinus Jr. That is telling of the conditions out there as we now get back underway. That's all happening at the hairpin, that long banked hairpin that makes the end of rather the start of sector 3. Fun fact that I learned today, this track is actually based after the Chinese symbol for Shang, I believe, which is in the name of the city that we hold this race in, Shanghai. We're on board with Babinus Jr. and he's 3 seconds ahead of Sanchez. Daf Sanchez, he's doing his best to close up. Not too sure how well he can do that. Ray Shen in 4th. Probably hopes that the guys in front of him will crash out. Not too sure on how likely that would be. You can see how deep Sanchez goes through that corner with. He's carrying so much pace, and it's almost impossible to brake in time to just not hit the wall. Luckily, hitting the wall doesn't actually, well, usually result in the race being over for a driver, but at the same time, it's not the greatest thing in the world. Leclerc down in 20th position. Not a season start that he would have wanted down at Trackhouse, who last season seemed to do what wasn't really thought of them. That was win a few races. Sanchez setting a fast lap, Nelson setting a fast lap. These are in the 128 region. We might see the times drop to that. A 127 from Ray Shen. He's got a second quicker than Marcus Nelson over that last lap. The top three converging in on each other. Tenali Gabo setting a new fast lap in 9th with his teammate up in 8th. And he's a big mover. He was outside of the top 10 a few laps ago. He's now well and truly within it. On board with Remy Lebeau, following with the Italian right in front of him. Highest placed Italian in this race currently is Tenali Gabo, of the three that we have on the field. As here comes Remy down the inside in contact with Tenali. Usually would have resulted in a time penalty for a collision. Side by side they go through the second sector, and how well does that flow out throughout everything? It is still Babinis Jr. who leads, and in fact Remy got past Tenali there. As we look to Scotland Rotak, not too sure on his initials being SRH. Pretty sure that comes from the S in Scotland and the RH from Rosak. Interesting use there, but for Modise, it's not too sure why they went KMI. Because I don't know. But into the pits comes Nelson and Daf Sanchez. Intermediates going on to the Techeetah driver's car. You could see some drivers come in for softs or mediums if they believe that the range really has cleared up that much. The DS guys are still out there in their pit box. They'll probably come in a bit sooner. Wonder what tyres are going to go onto Gabo's car. Catfish has come out on the intermediates. Babinis Jr. stayed out. And that's Scotland being held for a while as his teammate Medisas now comes into the pits. Not too sure if Scotland's ever driven for the Japanese team before. Leclerc comes in, intermediate tyres go on for him, so we do expect Babinis Jr. to come in and strap on a set of inters, and almost thought that there was a potential puncture lingering for the number 72, but don't think that's going to happen. Pablo's come out of the pits in 20th position for the Team Edam's Renault squad, and yes, Team Edam's Renault is the official team name now. But it does seem like the rain could be clearing up, because I don't see any more falling. Is this going to be Babinis Jr.'s easiest win of his career, as we're on board with his teammate Ray Shen? And it's all clear. It's dry. The track is dry. Babinis Jr. comes out on mediums. So he's just pulled 20 seconds ahead of Sanchez and Nelson with 8 laps to go. This is a strategic masterpiece from the Venturi squad. Probably didn't feel the need to come in for the certainly riskier inters quite yet, especially if it did dry up a lot faster. But look at Volstad. He's really struggling out there on the inters. You have to pit now for the dry compound tyres. Sanchez has opted for the hards, which is an interesting decision, but it will see him to the end of the race, which will certainly help him. On board with Pierre Gasly, so he comes into the pits. Gabo came out on the hards as well. And looking at Gabo in front of Gasly, in comes the Frenchman. What tyres go on to his car? That's the yellow-walled medium tyres. Babinis Jr. setting the fastest second sector of anybody. Volstad coming out on the hard tyres as well. And there's likely still a pit stop in it for those on the softs. As for those on the mediums, I think you should be able to extract enough out of them as to where you can get to the end of the race. But a 20-second race lead, 21-second race lead for Babinis Jr. In fact, it's almost an entire a minute ahead of Pablo Sierra. This is absolutely insane. And it's just like his father as well, who in certain instances in his career would have these breakout, standout, brilliant races where he's just dominating. And I think that's carried on to his son. A bit like the two Earnhardts, the two Dale Earnhardts in NASCAR. But we're at half race distance here in Shanghai. Fastest first sector going to Babinus Jr., the man who currently leads this race, on board with Catfish for Sims Porsche, who have gotten themselves a sponsorship deal with Red Bull. They probably want to be faster than their F1 outfit in real life, and currently seem to be doing a pretty good job at that. As they come through turn number 1, fastest first sector going to Marcus Nelson in third position. Highest placed driver on the soft tyres, the only DS Techeetah driver still in this race, with his teammate Revo and Xavier Kubica for Mercedes, by the way, out of this one. On board with Vestio for Mercedes EQ. Following Scotland Rotak and Pierre Gasly outside of the top 10. That Mercedes car did not shine too well in pre-season testing, especially considered it to be one of the slower cars in the test. Here comes Vestio, collision with Gasly, gets a bit of damage, and in fact drops behind the Red Devil. Not too sure what's happened to him there. Babinus Jr. sets a new fast lap, 123.233. He is flying out there. Here comes Marcus Nelson on Daf Sanchez to see if he can do anything to stop the advance of the Andretti driver in front of him. And that intermediate stint for the most part of the field, as collision with the barriers, is that Ray Shen or is that someone further back? It is someone further back. They've gotten themselves out of there quite quickly. We might expect them to come into the pits, however. So keep an eye on that pit lane. Fastest lap goes to Remy LeBeau, 121.699. Gabo coming through the final turn. Don't see anybody really coming into the pits. So I'm not too sure on that yellow flag period. Contact for Zach Wallace and Iker World there. Here comes Iker to try and get past Pierre. Makes the pass easily. In comes Gasly, who has front wing damage and is likely the cause of that yellow flag. 8% car damage. There was barely anything left on the car. He can't even use attack charge until the pit stop phase. Just in he comes. They fix that front wing quite quickly. It's a very, very malleable front wing structure. So here comes Babinus Jr. to start lap number 9. Gasly is about to be lapped. You really never see drivers getting lapped in this league. You haven't seen a lapped car in a long while. Well, we're about to see one. Here comes Babinus Jr. on the back of Pierre Gasly. Gets past him very quickly. That's what the Romanian does best. Sanchez currently in second ahead of Marcus Nelson. That's a terrible camera shot. Why were you in the tyre barriers? But either way, you can see a bit of blistering beginning to form on those soft tyres. So, soft tyre runners probably will need to pit. On board with Sanchez, 80% on the hards. He's going to make it to the end comfortably. 68 on the mediums. Babinus Jr. is going to have to pit. He's going to have to pit, which is not ideal. Fun fact. Not too sure if too many of you knew this, but pitting is not the ideal strategy if you are trying to outlast your opponents. Ray Shen in 5th, having a very, very good debut race indeed. Defending Catfish behind. They come through the chicanes and onto the final stretch in the second sector. And we've got yellows. Is that Babinus Jr.? No, it is Pierre Gasly, who once again slams into the wall. How many times can he hit the wall in a single lap? Because that's the second consecutive lap where he's hit it. He's about to start lap number 9 as well. He's a lap down. He's going to fall behind Sanchez and Nelson now. And we've got more yellow flags. Further back, that is Remy LeBeau. No, it's not. It's Tenali Gallo, who's facing the wrong direction. That's U Cable, reigning World Drivers' Champion. Also in the barriers. The reigning Constructors' Champions in Power Renault, struggling in their first race back in the ERL Formula E Series. Both of them will come into the pits with front wing damage. Catfish comes into the pits to get onto medium tyres to see himself go to the end of the race. The first of the top 10 to come in. And massive front wing damage for Tonali Gabo, who's also going to have to come in, so they have to prepare a new front wing. And for Gabo, he's on the hard tyres as well. He wasn't going to make his way through the field too easily, considering how little grip he has. And that's the wall. That's Volstad. Oscar Volstad's in the barriers, and he's tagged. That's Theo. He's got front wing damage. You can see that front wing. It's mangled. New cable comes in. Gabo comes in, and out of the race has gone. That's not even Gasly. Who is that? Upside down. I couldn't tell who that was. It's Babinis Jr. Iona Babinis Jr. is out. And that will put Dav Sanchez in the lead of the Shanghai E-Prix. That's confirmation. He's been taken out. Wow. That's by a lapped car as well. We expect Marcus Nelson to come into the pits quite quickly, and he does. That frees Gasly. In comes Nelson, puts on the mediums. Also into the pits, Sebastian Ocampo, so he's not going to capitalize on that. That does mean that the gaps for the lead should be a lot closer. Ray Shen in his first ever race in the ERL. That race being a home race as well. No doubt he's going to be very happy with this performance right now. He's currently up in second, but will he make it to the end of the race? Honestly, I do not know whether or not he will. Daniel LeBeau's also come in. He's going to come out in 7th, possibly. No, he's going to be 6th because his teammates only now heading down the main straight. Scotland, Rothak, Zach Wallace, and Daniel Bogdasarov fighting over 8th. Scotland and Wallace both into the pits for their third stops of the day, third and final stops of the day. And I saw a light blue car. Oh, many drivers coming into the pits at the end of this lap, including Leclerc. Intermediates could be in use again. That is Inters! It's raining again! Oh, that's very close for pit lane exits. But so many drivers coming back out on Inters. It's raining again! It is raining again! I don't believe it! More drops returning to this part of China, as if to try and bring some carnage here in the opening round of season 22. But Dav Sanchez, race leader, he's played this to perfection. The hard tires saw him go out for so long. He will come out on the intermediate tires. Volstad, interesting to see him out there on softs behind intermediate runners. But that is the entire field now coming into the pits. Catfish is going for a podium today. Ray Shen is going for a debut 2nd position. It's been a long time since we've seen a driver on debut on the podium. Now Campo got held there to let Catfish go by. Attack mode has been turned off because of the wet conditions. Both Kiro drivers coming into the pits. It's a lot easier to see the colour of the team on the timing tower than the logo compared to earlier versions of the system that we've seen before. But wow, that is unbelievable. That's the only word I've got for it. Unbelievable scenes that we are seeing. As there goes Sanchez to put a lap on, I believe, Versvio. Yeah, it is. Versvio now a lap down. Volstad, the last man to come into the pits and go on to Inters. He's going to drop down the order. Quite evidently, he could drop to be a lap down. And if the rain lifts before the end of this race, that would be insane. This race has not been a classic, I can tell you that much. This fight for the lead has been non-existent since Babinis Jr. took it and then crashed out. There hasn't been a fight for the lead all day, but on the penultimate lap, Dav Sanchez is looking to return to the top step of the podium ahead of a rookie and a world champion in Marcus Nelson. This Ray Shen, I have to say, this is one of the most impressive performances that I've seen in a long time. Must be the home crowd energy that's pushing him up the field, because his teammate definitely... Well, I'm not even sure how he flipped the car. He's certainly okay, however. He landed on the top instead of a really compromisable position. That's why we have to roll him on top of the driver's head. I just have to say, when we didn't have the aero screen, the halo, in seasons gone by, the cars did look really weird. Now, however, they look pretty good. They don't have that weird hole, and it just feels like the halo's a completely separate part of the car now. That can be turned off and on in game, at the very least. But Sanchez still leads this race, quite a ways ahead of Ray Shen, 16 seconds ahead of Ray Shen. I wouldn't say this has been dominant for Sanchez, because if anyone had been dominating this race, it would be Babinus Jr. In fact, Sanchez ahead of Volstad, so he's lapped 3 drivers, one of those being a champion. That DS powertrain that powers him seems to be only matched, rather, by the Sims powertrain. I was going to say unmatched, certainly has one match. But we're on the final lap. Sanchez setting a fastest first sector in the rain. Fastest lap currently held by Remy LeBeau in 6th. Will that be challenged or even matched? Or dare I say, beaten? And we've got yellows down in the 3rd sector. Don't beat Gabo again. It is Gabo again. With a bent front wing, the Sims Porsche man's day goes from bad to worse to absolutely terrible. It could have been a fight back, but they will have to go back to the drawing board, at least with the setup that he has, because Catfish seems to be doing quite well. But for Dav Sanchez, who heads down that long back straight, attack mode would be open if this was in the dry, but it's not dry. It started wet, it got dry, and it got wetter. But the man who's conquered the elements today is not the pole sitter, nor the man who was favoured. It's going to be Dav Sanchez, who goes from 4th to 1st in Shanghai and wins the opening round of the season with a fastest lap of 1:21.3. But I can assure you there will be a lot more applause for this man. Ray Shen, in the 33, in his first start in his home race, will come home with 2nd position ahead of Marcus Nelson and Catfish. And look at that fastest lap of 1:21.066, stolen by Nelson, a 1:21 dead. Then it's Catfish who will come across the line in 4th position, who steals the fastest lap, but Cambo takes it back, a 1:20.816. Here comes Remy LeBeau across the line in 6th, and he will not reclaim his fastest lap with his teammate right behind him, Vakiro Porsche. It just seems like the most important thing that we've seen this season is this going to be a 2-horse race in terms of powertrains, because you can see the drivers outside of the lead lap in Volstad, Theo and Gatsby, they were not using that powertrain. In fact, Zach Wallace came across the line only right now. Scotland Rotak was 9th, with Sierra in 10th, minutes behind the race lead. That is the most insane part of all of this. And it will be Cosmos Mordices, the last man on the lead lap. But this is the podium then. Dav Sanchez takes home victory in Shanghai from Ray Shen and Marcus Nelson. The top 3 on the podium. And wow, do they have very, very different careers to boot. Then it is Awful Catfish, Sebastian Ocampo, Remy LeBeau, the Red Devils, Zach Wallace in 8th, his favourite finishing position. Scotland Rotak and Pablo Sierra, your point scorers, your non-scorers were Bogdasarov, you Cable, Aika Ward, Tonali Gabo, Marlon Leclerc, Cosmos Medicis, Oscar Volstad, Theo and Pierre Gasly, with the non-finishers being Babinus Jr., Revo and Xavier Kubica. The driver standings very much reflect the day we've had today, due to that being the same as the points scored. So in the constructor standings heading into the 2nd round of the season in Kuala Lumpur, DS Andretti lead from DS Venturi Formula E team and DS Techeetah, 1 point ahead of Kiro Porsche, 2 points ahead of their factory team, Sims Porsche. Then it's McLaren Mercedes, Nissan Nismo and Team Edams Renault, with the non-scorers being Power Renault, Trackhouse Mercedes and Mercedes EQ. We'll see you guys next time then when the ERL Formula E Series returns in Season 22.